Hey, legends, thank you for coming on and spending a little bit of time listening to me talk shit, but with amazing people on my podcast. As you guys may have seen through social media, I've had a lot of problems with my hosting recently, and a lot of people charge me a lot of money to host it because all you guys apparently keep watching this and enjoying it. No, honestly, thank you so much for jumping on. Now, the best way to support this podcast in continuing and staying free, as it'll always be free, is there'll be a link in the description where you can buy merch if you'd want or to support the show. And if you can't find that because I don't really know anything about tech, it's at teespring.com/stores/Willy-merch. If you Google Teespring Willy merch, let's hope you'll find it. Otherwise, message me and we'll find it. A massive thank you and a shout out to Tactical Recovery. You've probably seen all my meatloaf-fueled sessions online that I end up lighting some candles, putting my flamingo sunnies on, and end up in the bath. A lot of that is actually in support as well by Tactical Recovery. They make magnesium-based recovery salts, both in a spray and that you put in the bath. I reckon the bath ones are the go. That's for me anyway. It gets me naked at least. From them, $1 from every single transaction goes straight into Legacy Australia that's supporting frontline forces, their mental health and every other way possible. They put that they're also the only brand officially and unofficially allowed to call people champs, and they're not fucking sorry. But also there's another promo code, which is promo code Salty Willy, which gives you 20% off as soon as you buy anything. But also with that, you get 20% off and $5 from whatever transaction that was is pledged to brain cancer research. So that's promo code Salty Willy. Also, apparently on the grapevine, there's 2 new products coming out. So keep an eye on all their social medias. It's Tactical Recovery. Any questions, I say shoot them through as well. As always, stay salty, champs. Massive thank you as well to the sponsor, Bang Gang. They're all ex-ADF, Canadian Armed Forces and US Army, as well as a mix of freelance PMCs, private military contractors, who love shooting, drinking, talking shit, as we all do, and coming up with ways to piss off all the anti-gunners, and they love going against the grain of political correctness and to have a fucking laugh. They've been tossing around the idea of a clothing line for well over a year now, and they've decided to pull the pin and start dropping designs, which are fucking sick. They aim to release a new design every 6 to 8 weeks, COVID pending. They also own the company Ozcan Tactical, which is a parent company specialising in making aftermarket parts for Glocks and customising all firearms in general. These guys, they tag me in a lot of their stuff. So if you look on my tag on Instagram, you'll be able to find them. But otherwise, they're online as the Bang Gang. And lastly, we have Second Rodeo. They've sent their own audio, so it makes this job even easier for old Willy. So it'll be here, and straight after that, the podcast will run. Thanks, guys.
Second Rodeo Clothing. We ain't your average country brand. We're living life like a country song because country music's in our blood and our wardrobe. Shop online at secondrodeoclothing.com and follow Second Rodeo Clothing on Facebook and Instagram for the latest look.
It's the Willy Show.
We're not quite 60 minutes, man. Not as official as what we were planning to do originally. Like you come in here and do it all, but this virus will have that fucking effect on everyone, ruining everyone's plans.
Yeah, that's right. It's right. It sucks, but we move on.
Yeah, how are you guys all keeping up there?
Good. We're going all right, actually, work-wise and everything. It's going really well.
Yeah, good shit.
Could be a lot worse. Could be,
yeah.
Like a lot of other Australians losing their jobs and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, for sure. Have you been out on the bike much?
No, not at all. I haven't ridden in 2 months.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it's getting a bit beyond fun at the moment. So I've got it in parts. I don't know if you...
Yeah, I can sort of see it. Jesus.
It's sort of the whole back end's off. The other bike's in the background. I've got my 500 and then my 450 on the other side and that. So the whole back with it used to be a tank. It's gone to miles. And it's just going to be the standard rear end on this, which is just over there. I'm just going to put it on the thing and go from there.
Are you selling the KTM?
I was going to, but on the download.
Yeah, well, it didn't have any issues across the Simpson or anything.
Sorry, what was that?
You had no issues across the Simpson or anything?
No. Well, we've done that a few times.
Yeah, bloody oath. Fuck.
So yeah, it's it's going to be interesting, but we'll get by. So
Yeah, bloody hell. So where I sort of want to start, at least for this, is sort of back at you sort of joining the army and how that all came about.
yeah, sure. So when do you want to start? Do you want to just start now?
Shit, so we'll start like what drew you to your specific job, like your core?
Yeah, I was living in South Australia. Here you are right now.
Yeah.
In the late 90s, early 2000s, with my father and my mother, and we were living in a small town in the outback called Roxby Downs. My father worked at a big mine there called Olympic Dam. He was running all the electricians for an engineering firm, and I finished year 12, and I was actually going to go work for Ansett, who was up and running at the time, and go from there and actually do my pilot's license, go down the airline pilot route. And then I was really keen to join the military. My entire family, from all sides, have had serving members, predominantly in the army, but a couple of RAFIs as well. I had that interest in joining from quite an early age. I had a pretty big interest in fighter jets and helicopters and things like that growing up as a kid. So it really did interest me, and I thought, well, what better way to initially serve is to join the reserves. And I looked at 1027 there in South Australia initially. I went to a couple of meetings, met some people, and then 2001 rolled around, and obviously September 11th attacks occurred. Being very, very young and quite patriotic, the first thing I did was sign for full-time service. So in December of that year, so straight after it, I was at Kapuka to finish off my IATs. And when I went into recruiting, I initially wanted to go straight into infantry, which is what I was going to do. I was starting to train to do in reserves at 1027. And I was sold on parachute rigging,
Yeah.
which is quite the opposite. But they were really keen to get some more riggers.
So can you run us through what a parachute rigger specifically does?
Yeah, sure. So a parachute rigger is a trade within the army, whereby the soldiers basically are a subject matter expert for parachute and aerial delivery equipment systems. They pack, service, repair parachutes, slings, aerial delivery slings, and other types of aerial delivery equipment. And they also jump. To become a parachute rigger, you've got to be at least basic parachute qualified. Sort of when you get to Lance Jack or Corporal, you go off and do your military free fall course, and your pack check course. So you become a checker, and you check basically all the diggers' work or all the packers' work. So as you pack a parachute, there's certain steps where you stop and you've got to get your checker, who's a corporal or above, to come in and check the work that you've done up to that process, and they sign it off. So it's quite in depth.
So is that packing both static line chutes and your free fall canopies?
Yeah, and cargo. And there's also lots of mechanical. For the cargo side, there's lots of mechanical instruments and things like that we actually learn how to test and repair and maintain as well. So yeah, it's a mixture of it is a part of Ordnance Corps. So it's with the blanket counters as they're affectionately known. lot of your trade is actually in providing the assets as well. So we all parachutes, they're obviously quite a secure item, and they've got to be protected because there's myriad of things that people can do to them to effectively make them unserviceable. So we look after them. There's the security surrounding all the aerial delivery equipment is quite full on, it's quite stringent. So we do a lot of logistical support as well, where we deliver the aerial delivery systems around Australia to the special forces. For quite a while there, back when I started 3RR as well, an A battery. So we deliver and then also often, depending on our qualifications, we'll also run parachute operations as well. A lot of us are parachute jump masters, static line and free fall and things like that. So it's quite a wide ranging trade within the skill set. So a lot of logistical support and also subject matter expertise within parachuting operations.
That's massive, man, especially that like the aerial delivery of equipment.
Yeah. So when I sold the trade, to the point where I actually started my IAT course in Dandiana, you walk in and you see all these big mechanical items that actually attach to the timing items and release mechanisms and that to the cargo chutes, and you look at them and go, the hell is all that? That's not a parachute, I thought it was, it opens up quite an intense trade, and also opens your mind up and eyes up to the different mechanisms for delivering not only personnel but equipment into war zones.
Yeah, fucking hell, because in my basic mind, delivering equipment is just a fucking static line chute on a box, and you just slide it out the back and it just opens up. But obviously, there's a fuckload more in it than that.
For many years, that's exactly what it was. And just as I started and got into the trade, there were all these new advances that had been around for a little while prior to my starting within the trade. But there's ram air cargo parachute systems where there was a GPS box attached to the system, and that's cargo ram air cargo parachute system could actually steer the cargo directly to a pinpoint spot and land like a special forces infantry section or someone with a ram air parachute. They can actually pinpoint and land exactly where they need to.
Oh shit! So any parachute it can be like attached to, like from some like an infantryman on the ground through to like dropping cargo.
The system that I'm speaking of is basically a massive ram air parachute. It's not the typical roundy static lines.
Yeah.
And it has steering toggles and things like that attach to a mechanism halfway down the risers, and also in that mechanism is the GPS system. They can designate the target by GPS coordinates, or I believe I left when they all started to evolve, but I believe they can also laser designate an area, just like when you laser designate a spot for a laser guided bomb or something like that.
Yeah.
They can do the same for this precision cargo insertions. But the team, you can have a team follow them straight out. Also with the smaller, back when I was in their MC5s, MC5 ram air parachutes, and they could actually float, and the team could steer in with the cargo.
That's fucking hectic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and what's sort of the maximum sort of weight of cargo you're looking out the back?
To be honest, I think up to nearly Land Rover size when I left. I wasn't on the trials initially at Woomera. I was pretty new at the time, so I was, on the pack lanes in Richmond and getting my quotas up. So it was the more experienced corporals and sergeants above that went on that trip. But from what I heard and all the stories is that they were carrying quite large loads. I do know that the newer systems, just from researching and looking into it nowadays, that they can carry quite large loads up to small armored personnel carriers and that.
Yeah, shit.
So, yeah.
I
That's
just want to
also
see
the
a
Americans.
Bushmaster out the back, just fucking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be going.
And did you ever fuck anything up? Did you ever have something let go? Next thing you've just got whatever cargo just fucking spudding in.
Oh yeah, a little side note. There's two trades that sort of culminate in the rigger trade. There's another trade which is the air dispatch trade, which is they don't have the same training or qualifications, and they're in Transport Corps. So they basically what they do they only pack all the cargo loads for aerial delivery, and we provide them the parachutes and the aerial delivery equipment, and they just basically strap it onto the load. So we work in unison with them. So working with them, we got to see a lot of operations and do a lot of cool things. And of course, there's a couple of mistakes and incidents where loads went in. While it's pretty spectacular to watch, it normally leads to an ass raping at the end for whoever did the wrong thing. But yeah, look, it rarely happens. But when it did, it was obviously a huge deal because we pride ourselves on providing a good service and equipment, and it was quite a big thing when it did occur.
Yeah, and the majority of your work was it with the fucking special forces lads?
Yeah, especially I was lucky enough to I actually don't have any data behind it, but I was pretty much one of the younger riggers, rank and age-wise, for many, many years that was lucky enough to get straight onto a free-fall course.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know whether I just sucked up enough bosses' asses or what the case was, or I was actually a good digger to get put onto that course, but I got onto it quite early, and that allowed me to do a lot more with the Special Forces community, as they are the predominant ram air parachute enforced insertion force. So yeah, that was really exciting, and that opened up a few more doors and contacts. So to answer your question, the trade in itself, especially after 3RAR lost their wings, 90% of their work is with the Special Forces community.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, well, I know no basic grunts of really anyone's doing jumps. Like, if you want to jump in the army, you got to either go Special Forces or riggers, I guess.
Yeah, and now that I'm older and a bit more wiser and not as gung-ho, now I look back at it, especially with the friends, the group that I've got, the close-knit friends group from the army. I'd say that my best years and career-wise, my best time in the military was when I was a rigger. So yeah, if anyone that's looking on the outside coming in and joining, initially joining as a parachute rigger is a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah, fucking hell. It sounds like you did a better path than going grunts and walking around the fucking bush.
I don't know. I see. I've got two ways of thinking. I think I actually sort of kicked myself that I didn't go into an arms corps initially, whether it was labs or say armored corps or grunts. We had a lot of ex armored corps guys and grunts come across after doing the hard yards, and they just they do make better soldiers in a lot of cases. You probably disagree in a lot of cases, but just holistically, they are really good. We were as joining up as with a I use a derogatory term that as a pogue, you're sort of blind to how the greater army and the actual spear works and how it operates.
Yeah,
you do learn a few things in sub 1 and sub 2 and 4 and things like that. But yeah, look, I think looking back, I would have liked to have gone straight into the infantry or armored corps because like that was my interest as well. That's why I keep referring to Armored Corps as well. First and done a couple of years, and then maybe gone over to rigger or air crewman.
Yeah, I would agree as far as the best like pogues that I've worked with as far as like non-combat corps are all the guys that have come from a combat background. So they have been a grunt for 10 years and then they've gone, fuck this, my knees hurt, I'm going to drive a truck or I'm going to... The best ones are actually the medics. If you know, they were in infantry battalion for even 6 months, transfer medic, and then because the medics work so closely, it's fucking so much better.
100%.
Because they just know how things operate. And it's a mindset too thing. Like the way guys get smashed in those combat corps IETs and battalions compared to a lot of other non-combat corps, they sort of just ingrains that a little bit more discipline, a bit more proper army shit. Like, you know, sometimes you take a medic out somewhere who never served in the infantry and it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
oh, look, I totally agree. You know, even listening to you speak and reminiscing back to doing, you know, going field with the pogues, and then you have the 2 or 3 ex-grunts with you, and they're just laughing and ripping into all the line officers and sergeants that are running the exercise activity, and so, you know, it's just it brings back a lot of good memories, and just seeing the professionalism of some of those ex warfighters at the the private and Landsjack level, and pulling up, they're pulling up, you know, sergeants and line officers that have been in a lot longer, but from a pogier background, and saying, no, hang on a minute, that's not how it's done. You know, I love that. So,
yeah, there aren't really 2 sides to the army. There's the war fighting side and then the other side. It's not that one's better than the other, but they're different. You know, the grunts need that on the ground expertise. Like I've seen plenty of warrant officers who, you know, they need to run a section attack, and you're like, you've never done this since Kapuka. Like, just because you hold the rank, you should get a private fucking infantryman out there will do it significantly better.
Yep.
That's one of the problems we're having that I saw firsthand in the Middle East, because we were basically the training force for the Afghans, I guess. But the higher rank are the ones actually doing the training where there's security for them. And it's like, I would be way more qualified at teaching these lads how to combat shoot or do any of this than you, but I don't have the rank to actually do it from a security element.
It's 100% true. You know, I could talk for hours about all the experiences where I've seen that firsthand on operations, and also just back in Australia and, you know, an exerciser within the unit. It's you know, and that's every time I get asked the question from someone looking from the outside and looking in, wanting to join, they sort of look at me funny when I say, think about going to an arms corps first, because I don't think they hear that often. I just said, you know, it makes you a better soldier holistically, and that's just my opinion anyway. I'm sure there's plenty of more of your veteran viewers that'll probably disagree, but you know, from my experience, 13, 14 years in the army, it's the good guys and girls definitely come from the arms corps.
Fucking A, and there's nothing like being in a battalion, like an infantry unit, like a massive 600-person battalion.
And I elaborate as well, and sort of go off on the one side. There's a lot of women in arms corps now, and in the arms corps, and even some of the girls that have come from your background, like Clark's and or the Q store, and then from an infantry unit, and then come to one of the units we were at. I was ever posted to. Were always sort of, they were the sharp end of the spear as well. They were really good because they're so rehearsed with working in with the guys within the infantry or the armored corps unit. Their soldiering skills were excellent. Yeah,
well, all the Clarks and stuff posted to a frontline unit, they do the shit. They might not do a full PESA or whatever, but they do the majority of our training with us, like at the range or whatever. They do a PT every morning with us, and a lot of that's combat oriented.
Yeah,
So when did you make the move across to choppers?
So it was around 2006. So it was just as I did OJT. It was just as being as well. We had the Black Hawk crash off Fiji. So yeah, it was 2006. And then pretty much straight after that, I went on my my IET course at Oki. So around that time, it's a bit hazy now. But yeah, I made the decision because again, I was getting bored of the mundane, and we used to call it the shoe factory. You know, sitting on the tables, packing 15, 20 parachutes a day, doing nothing really combat orientated. We had a lot of fun by going out and doing the jumps with the operators and that. But you know, you land on the ground, they go off and do their cool warfighter stuff, and you pack your parachute up and go to the pub. Well, you know, in most cases, you know, the pub. But while that's cool for a while, and you know, I just felt like I was getting lazy and I was missing out on a lot more that the military could offer me. And I thought I could do more. I did have an ambition to go pilot, but I thought I'd do it. You know, I'll make it a stepping stone. So the next best thing was air crewman. I had this huge fascination with Black Hawks after joining the army and operating with them and getting a chance to jump out of them a few times. And that was always my sort of goal. Not many people knew about it within the rigger trade, but you know, one day I just walked in and put my transfer in and applied. So I went and did the aptitude testing in the city, and the rest is history. I got in and went straight to do combat survival course in Townsville, one of the prerequisites, and then aviation medicine in Adelaide, and then from there it was straight to Oki for. Back then it went to a 9-10 month course. So it was, you know, straight into the basic air crewman. I got to see the end of the Huey. So they were using the Hueys as an air crewman trainer, basically, at that time. And then we started on the a Civi contracted Bell 412 helicopter was brought in just as I started. So we did all our training on that, which was pretty good. With the then Australian Helicopters who got the contract. So that's about 3 or 4 months, and then you go on to Black Hawk conversion course pretty much straight away. And that's again 3 months, pretty intense. You know, all of us on course made mistakes and failed a lot of stuff. It was a big eye opener. And then we were one of the first courses. There was about 4 after us. 4 or 5, I think, that did the pilot's ROBC or Regimental Officer Basic course. So it's the tactics phase, and we basically do all the lessons and the planning and everything that the pilots are doing and learning. And that was really good because that gave me, or us, a better understanding on how to run missions and mission planning, and we really got, you know, balls deep in learning how to navigate, aviation navigation and all that sort of stuff. And it was really cool. So that was another 3 months of just flying, you know, formations and doing air assaults and that around Oki and Toowoomba. And then, so got qualified and, you know, you leave Oki and you don't have door gun. That's the only qualification really you don't have.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah,
that's what everyone wants.
Yeah, well, that's right. My vision, I'd have to say, still my sort of go back a bit. My fondest memory and one of the coolest things in my whole career, and something that stands out to me even today, is the first time I put night vision goggles on in a Black Hawk. Like we had all used, like yourself and in the army from day dot, you learn how to use night vision and you wear it. And these big shitty frames that we used to have, but. When you first do it in a Black Hawk, all you keep thinking about is, like, you know, the scenes from Black Hawk Down and how cool it is. And it's just, it really put a smile on my face. I think I got in trouble for not doing the right thing for like half the flight because I was literally just sitting there with this big shitting grin on my face, just looking around going, how cool is this?
Yeah.
Until I had that realisation that I actually have to pass and stop around and smiling. So yeah, that was really cool. Door gun, yeah, just as cool. When I got posted initially up to B Squadron in Townsville. It was probably another 2 or 3 months before myself and the 2 other IATs, the newly qualified crewmen, ended up on a door gun course, and they pretty much ran that for us. So that's 2 or 3 days up at high range and just day and night, solo, formation, everything.
Yeah, and what guns are you shooting out of those? Are they 58s?
Yeah, made 58s. They sort of progressed with mounts, different mounts and tubes. When I was at Oakey, when we were just finishing, we did the trials for the new mount and ammo boxes, which literally didn't come into fruition and actually into service until I left, which was 8 years later, 7, 8 years later. So crazy.
That's no fucking surprise for anyone who knows the army.
Yes.
Slow moving fucking beast. I've seen kit that was, apparently coming in before I was in, and I've only just got it.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's just one of those things. I used to get really beat up about it and that, but you learn to go without, as you can attest to it. And it's exciting when the new stuff comes in, and by then it comes in and it's already out of date.
But I think like working with other nations too, you almost get then an appreciation of the shit we do have. Like you work with the Yanks, like when I work with the Marines for 5 or 6 weeks, or more like 4 or 5 weeks, I really had an appreciation for how much better my shit, although I complained about my shit. Like, I've got double NVGs and I've got fucking decent body armor and all this shit. And you, like, even if you, and as much as you can hate a Steyr, it's better than any M16 ever. And these Yanks have got this big fucking M16 out of Vietnam. Particularly the Marines.
It's true. And it was an eye-opener how much both the Marines, the US servicemen and women, and also the Canadians have to buy themselves, like out of their own pocket. We do as well, but it's more of a nicety. Like if you want a better pack or webbing or something like that, if it's approved, you can go spend the cap, the dollars and buy it. But everything really is provided. And it was just a real big eye opener to find, chatting with the Americans and the Canadians that they have to buy a lot of their stuff. It's not issue to them, during the initial issue.
And they fucking half of them earned half of what we do as well, especially the Yanks.
They with both the Army and the Marines, and we did play a little bit with the Navy at certain points, but the Army and the Marines in the US, they do have some good kit. And, we sort of step back and we'd be quite jealous, and we'd be ratting and smashing the OC about how come we haven't got that and when can we get it, sort of thing, like most soldiers. But a lot of other stuff that we had was far better than what they were flying with or operating with. So
fucking A. Like I always say, like, the Yanks might have all this shiny shit at that high end. Like, they'll have F-22s and this shit. But then look at a basic infantryman in Australia and a basic infantryman in America, and it's not even comparable at like the soldiers, like at the real, not the cutting edge, at that baseline. Like I remember, man, every day in Afghan looking at the Brits in their body armor and just thinking, you fucking poor pricks. Like it just looks like a puffer vest. They've just put fucking like steel in to make bulletproof. You're like, what the fuck is that? How do you even wear that?
Yeah, I agree. It's the Americans had what was called the Air Warrior set, which is the harness built into basically like a chest rig, which is what all the aircrew use. And we didn't have that. We had this basically an Australian-made civvy helicopter harness.
You can see the problems already in that.
It was shit. But we had that for years, and it carried all our survival kit and 2 little strap-on pockets on each side, zip pockets. But you know, the Air Warrior is great, and we should have got it earlier, but it is heavier. And but yeah, anyway, it is what it is. And that was just one of the items that we were really keen to get a hold of, but just took years and years to come to fruition and actually come into service.
Yeah, it's like that with some cool kit. You're like, fuck, I want that. And you get it. You're like, fuck. It's like at Kapuka, you wear webbing the whole time. Then you go to like a unit somewhere and you're in body armor and helmet the whole time. You're like, fuck, I'd kill just in webbing and bush hat right now walking around.
I can still remember putting chest webbing on for the first time and going, why are we issued that shit?
Yeah.
It goes on our hips. You know,
so big.
It just, yeah, you walk away bewildered. Just how did that happen?
Yeah, man, fucking A. And how did that combat survival course look that you guys did?
Yeah, well, I did 3. I did 1 when I got out, but I did 2 when I was in. The official one, which you know we all do. It's all aircrew from across the ADF have to do it as a prerequisite. So you're there with air hostesses and from the RAF, pilots and aircrewmen from the Navy. And basically, it's 2.5 weeks of not eating and really testing your limits. Yeah. When you do it, it's shit you don't enjoy.
Is that done with the West boys?
Sorry?
Is that done with the SAS fellas? Or
there was one on our course, but they do it whenever, like, throughout their Rio cycle, they just get chucked on it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like, you can imagine it's pretty much a walk on the park for them. They've already gone through so much, and they get to combat survival with all these prissy aircrew, except for the army guys, who are just hating life and being in bush. And I mean, the bush phases and the sea phase are only 2 or 3 days at a time, maximum. So they're not big, massive, long stints. It's a couple of days initially as classroom, usual, military courses. Everything's PowerPoint presentations and in the classroom first up, and then before you go out. And that's pretty good. Like, you learn a lot there, and you go out onto the oval and you learn how to start fires with sticks and flints and all this other crazy stuff, and how to put up and make shelters and things like that. So it's quite a good course in that regard. You learn a lot about yourself and about other human beings when you're out in the field and trying
really fatigued,
trying to survive and eat bugs and kill things and that. So that was quite interesting. That's another really good portion of the course, is learning about other people and human beings, how they react in those stressful situations.
Yeah, because I'd heard horror stories before about the SAS. Maybe it's only a fast air thing, but the SAS heading out with these like fighter pilots on like a sort of survival style course, and it ended up being just like that fucking Behind Enemy Lines movie, and it was just like proper fucked.
Yeah, there was an instance where we had one of the guys, a Navy pilot, got bitten by a goanna on his hands. So he's trying to catch a goanna in the middle of the night or day or something like that. Ducky, I think his name was. Ducky, if you're watching this, g'day, I haven't seen you in years. Hope your hand's better. But, he got bitten or scratched or something like that on his hands. He got a really pretty bad infection, and he had to get bust out. So there's a lot of horror stories that are in folklore for the course. You hear about when you get there, and you don't know who they are and if they ever actually occurred, but they're quite interesting. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, that's everything in the army. It's just the dig in net of something small ended up happening, and then what it actually ended up happening was nowhere near that. But it's just like, when you get to Singleton, this will happen. It just doesn't.
It's always good to have those furfies floating around. They end up getting longer, and different details start emerging.
Yeah, fucking oath. Like, I love, like, as soon as you're like, we're ending X tomorrow, lads. Oh, fucking what? 3 weeks left of Hamel or some shit. Just like, fucking eat a dick.
Yeah.
And when did you operationally deploy?
Oh, gosh. I think it was about 2008 or 9. Was the first one, and that was to Timor.
Yeah.
And that was another reason why I left. Was sort of really driven to leave riggers, was that it was a really small pool of guys and girls that had even a chance to deploy, and that was generally the guys that are posted to SASR in Perth.
Yeah.
Or senior sort of sergeants or line officers in the trade in Sydney where I was. So to get into a unit and within months be deployed in operations, flying, air assaults and doing rescues, and that was unbelievable. I knew straight away, I was like, yeah, I made the right decision here. Why don't I do this 6 years ago, when I enlisted? But anyway, so I think it was about then, and I ended up leaving nearly a month earlier because one of the guys had to come back early. He had some issues and something he had to sort out at home, so that was pretty cool. Did that deployment, come back, and my home life sort of went to shit straight away then, with my partner and who I had my first son with. So, which I guess is just the thing with being in the military. Sometimes it affects your life and your family life, being away so often, and that's what happens with me being air crew straight away on a 9-month, 10-month course. Posted the Townsville, and then within months I was deployed for 6 months. So it didn't end well. And then from there, I put my hand up to do another one straight away. So I think that was only 4 months.
And was that
4
back
or 5 months long? Yeah, so that was pretty good. I didn't have Rockall, so it wasn't that long. So it was probably 4 months. And then during that time, because my ex-partner and my son moved back down to Sydney, which is where they're from initially, I applied to transfer to 171 Squadron, which is the Special Operations Helicopter Squadron here in Sydney. So I pretty much got accepted straight away, like schema and aviation corps straight away. So yeah, when you can go, you can go. So I think it was like 2 weeks after I made the decision and I put the paperwork in, I was actually flown to Melbourne for the Melbourne Grand Prix, and was standing right beside a 171 Black Hawk at the track, showing civvies through the Black Hawk as a member of 171. I hadn't done the Special Operations Aircrewman course yet or anything, and I didn't know anyone in the squadron. One or two off my crewman course that were there, but that was about it. And from there, it was just the excitement levels and my interest in flying grew and grew. More so from getting into 171. From when I was at 171, we did another 2 deployments, plus probably 2 sort of non-combative deployments. PNG for a couple of months for one of them. For the national elections there, providing security and overwatch, and also flying around the ballot papers securely in that, and also just a bit of anti-terror stuff. So,
and that was with primarily which units?
Flying units.
No, like as far as like infantry, was it with the SAS guys or? Yeah.
So a lot of, because we're in the same, pretty much we're on the same base, being Holsworthy. There's a lot of commando stuff, a lot of Tag East anti-terrorist stuff. So that was really cool, especially being in the planning phase and jumping in and learning about it all. And those initial years at 171 grew me into what I am now. The senior pilot at the time, Rod, and all the senior pilots had been there for quite a while. Even some of the junior guys and girls have been pilots there for a number of years. I'm still junior, seen as junior pilots, and their drive and their mission mentality and mission first, and just their whole demeanour, in the office and on operations was just incredible. So it just made me want to be better as not only a soldier but as an aviator, and it was really good. It taught me a lot, and it was quite an exciting time.
Was there a significant difference between flying with like a regular unit and then flying with your really special ops specific units? As far as I've heard, a lot of like the American SF dudes, they have the Night Stalkers or whatever, like they're special forces pilots.
Yeah, the 160th. Yep.
Yeah, and the boys and those guys saying like, it's like fucking two different helicopters that you're in. And dudes saying when we were hitting on target, these are like the SEALs, saying that the most scary part of the whole op was flying in with the pilot on fucking night vision, just in a valley, and them just being like, "Fuck this."
Oh, I don't want to speak too ill of the guys and girls at B Squadron and A Squadron, but NC, the Chinooks, but yeah, it's chalk and cheese. It really is. The only people that can even admit that is people that have gone from both, between both squadrons or units, and regiments. Yeah, look, it was a huge difference. Their mission focus and mentality to the training and to be blunt, we could get away with being pretty sloppy and pretty average at B Squadron. There'd be one or two of the guys and girls there that are, the aviators that they'd come down hard on you and say, let's do better or let's pick your game up. But every time you fly at 171, or during that time I was at 171 with Rod running the show and some of the senior pilots there, you had to be a next level, and you had to be always on point. If you slipped up once, you're going to know about it. And it was just that was purely because of the mission that we did, and they do. It's all special forces related and assaults and anti-terrorist related operations. So, it was all fast paced, and it was in the accuracy and the levels of flying and operations had to be, top notch. You had to be on the ball all the time. And I learned pretty quick, because I wouldn't say I was the best crewman in the world or soldier, but I learned really quickly that I had to be, otherwise I was out of my ass.
Yeah. Yeah, you see some of the videos that like you put up, and that'll probably be running over this. The accuracy that you need, if you're landing the Tag East lads on a rooftop, fast roping in, that, well, they can't be a foot the other way, because then they'll be off the end of the line and just fucking into the abyss. Like, that accuracy on flying, helicopters well within what I'd assume are the restrictions of or whatever safety restrictions you have around it. You're next to a building, fast roping dudes in with feet between shit.
Oh, it's so dynamic, and the key word is dynamic. Like, it's just, I couldn't have even fathomed the different things that you can do with a helicopter and with soldiers tactically prior to going there, and some of the things that we did and they continue to do now just is amazing. And some of the footage I've provided to you, like, for example, doing height training at the Mount facility in Holsworthy, we'd practice fast roping the right-hand side of the aircraft to the roof, and the left-hand side would be fast roping down to the balcony, 2 stories below on the other side. So you'd have this split going, and then you'd do that at day, and then you'd practice flying it at night on MDGs and calling it in, because if people don't know that's the primary role of the air crewman on both sides of the aircraft, to call the aircraft in. And that was another factor when I didn't realise how good those pilots are and had to be until I actually got to sit in the front and fly one. The vision over the dash and down the side when you have the doors on there's not much there, and when you're flaring, you're sitting up looking up at the sky, just about putting all your faith into the air crewman calling you in. It's pretty wild, and it really made me realise and be thankful for those guys and girls that sat in the front and did what they did, because they were pretty skillful.
So how did you end up fucking flying one?
Just sucked up to enough bosses, and no, in Timor and operations, they generally nearly every rotation they'll offer some joy flights, we call them, or fun flights to the air crewmen, and then offer some of the ops staff and tradesmen and women a joy flight. And basically, it's the most senior instructor pilot within the squadron. Obviously, sitting on the left, and you'll jump in and you'll go do 20 minutes, half an hour, of flying around and have a go at it. It's pretty cool.
That's fucking
I did it again back in Sydney. They offered the same thing, and I think I was one of the first to put my hand up.
Yeah. And
run out there. So it was pretty cool. The opportunities for aircrewmen and army pilots for all types of aviation is quite immense. Like I remember the first week in Townsville, a couple of the guys went up in Hornets. There just happened to be an exercise there, and the senior Hornet pilots walk over and go, "Hey, who wants to go for a ride?" So you get those opportunities, I suppose.
Yeah, that's life goals right there.
Yeah.
There was a story about with the Hornet guys that it was one of the SAS commanders worked out for those guys before they were deploying, like, look, we're going to take you guys up like a section or whatever in like rotating through, going up in a Hornet. And apparently some of the West guys were taking the piss out of one of the pilots' like names, like whatever his name was. I sort of, back and forward taking the piss. And apparently this Hornet pilot just looks at him and goes, "We'll see who's a real bitch in about 10 minutes. And the guy who was telling me reckons it was just like, "Oh yeah, like whatever, we're still taking the piss out of this dude." And apparently just pulled him to like a full climb and then just fucked this guy up in the plane. It was like, fuck, no, you might take the piss out of me on the ground, but it doesn't matter what uproading you do. You haven't been taught of, how to hit fucking 10 Gs.
Yeah, no, it's you can eat your words sometimes. Yeah. If you haven't got that experience with flying, and by the time you get up and you feel the G and you feel the rush, it come back to bite you quite quickly.
Yeah, fucking A. And then post your military career, you ended up getting into, is it Care Flight you worked for?
Yeah, so I ended up going off and sort of towards the end there at 171. I was sort of being schooled as one of the two guys to be the senior aircrewman there. I did became a senior SO aircrewman, and then one of the guys, Dino, was leaving and was sort of handing over, and they had a pretty good process there where they trained up the next in line. They had a good way of working out who they wanted to sort of carry the torch. Not blowing too much wind up my own arse, but that happened to be me and one or two others. But I was just getting a bit, as a few of us do before we leave, I just got a bit sick of the process and the military, and wanted something different, to do something different. I didn't, there wasn't anything I was really, really angry about, but it's just that time that I had to move on and try something new. So I saw an advert one day on Seek or on the paper or something. It was for Care Flight. So at the time, a couple of the guys had left to CHC, which is Canadian Helicopter Company, who had the big New South Wales ambulance rescue helicopter contract. So I still kept in contact with them, and I was hearing their stories and how cool it was. And it's just every day is like being deployed. You're always on mission. You're always doing what you're trained to do all the time. So that really hit me hard, and I was like, that sounds really cool. So I looked at CHC and I couldn't get a job with them because they just that opportunity hadn't arisen yet. And then I saw the Care Flight advert, so I applied. And initially it was a 6-month contracted role while one of the guys was away. So I thought, what, that's perfect. I can take leave without pay. I had my long service still, and what I'll do is I'll do the 6 months, and then if it's not what I liked or expected, I could just roll straight back into the army and continue on as I was doing. But from day dot, I got the Care Flight. I just knew this is what I was, I really, really wanted to do and what I was meant to do for a number of reasons. But yeah, so 2013, I think it was. Yeah, 13. I left and went to Care Flight, and spent about 4 years there.
Mm. And it's only if you want to get into this, because you and me have talked about it, mainly pissed over a bar in fucking what was the town? Maree. It would have been maybe the Maree pub.
Yeah. It was all a blur. I can't remember.
Oh, mate, I reckon that was the best night on the fucking thing, but for other reasons. But you ran into a fair bit of like sort of mental health problems from some incidents in both the Army and Care Flight.
Yeah, look, I think I definitely have something there, but I wouldn't say that I got PTSD or anything like that. I would go as far as to say that I haven't yet, but what I will say is I believe that I have changed. People that are close to me have known me for many years, and my family now and kids definitely noticed a massive change in me. So there is something there, but so I don't want to take anything away from the people that really do suffer from really strong post-traumatic stress disorder. But yeah, look, there was 171, one or two things. We went and searched for some guys that went missing in a helicopter crash in PNG, and we found them. So that was not nice to deal with, like picking up, they were literally body parts out of the helicopter. So, that was, not just us, it was 3 helicopters doing that. So we all got to see some bad stuff with that instance. But, Carefly was just another level. And what it opened me up to was our emergency services, specifically AMBOs and police, and what they see day to day. And, I won't take anything away from combat or military operations, but I believe, my own personal opinion is that, especially if you're an ICP or an intensive care paramedic or a micro paramedic in Victoria, someone like that deals with, the very traumatic and toughest medical jobs, we call them prior ones. You would definitely see a lot more than you would see in combat. And that's just, again, my own personal opinion from being on both sides of the fence. But look, that's probably why I could only do 4 years, and I put my hand up to say that I just mentally couldn't continue to do it. And you've spoken to one of the guys, one of my close mates that was on that ride across the Simpson. That he was a crewie in Victoria, and he's the same. Like he needed to change as well. And it's for me, it was the kids. It was dealing with the kids, and seeing them. That started to take its toll on me. So especially being a father, with kids, it's pretty confronting dealing with death, especially with children.
Do you think the way you changed dealing with children was, becoming a father changed the way you'd see that significantly?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. You can see I was grinding my teeth before when the kids were playing in the background screaming, But you love them, and you definitely change after having kids. And would I have been affected differently if I didn't have children? I can't say, because I was a father when I joined Care Flight, so it would definitely affect me. I still think if I didn't have children, it just made it was took more of a toll on me. I think due to being a father.
One of the things I talk about occasionally with Army compared, if you want to compare them to ambulances and shit at home compared to seeing trauma, I always say too, at least with defence, you go on like a 6-month tour and it's really defined that, this is a start and end of this tour, and it's so removed from the community. So it's like that happened in Afghan, or that happened in Iraq, or, it's 12,000 miles away. Where the ambulances, especially, you're living in the community, ambulance and cops and everyone, you're living in the community, and that same shit you're seeing is happening in the community. And it's every day. It may not be as, hectic, at times, but it's not, each tour you do, it's day in, day out, it's the same shit.
Yeah, and with my role at the Rapid Response Trauma Team, like we didn't do, for the viewers, like we didn't do any of the inter-hospital, we call it inter-hospital stuff, like going to pick up the sick kid or old couple in Orange or Bathurst and then fly them back in the middle of the night. That was done by another agency or the Royal Flying Doctors. We just did the bad stuff. Like we did all the drownings, the car accidents, the murders, the suicides, like anything that required a doctor and an ICP intervention within minutes. We'd launch in 3 or 4 minutes for each job. That was us. So there wasn't a rest period with regards to the trauma, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was just always the bad stuff rolling over and over and over. That aside, and like yourself, knowing and being friends with hundreds of different veterans from all three forces, there was definitely lots of stuff that people saw and were involved with overseas on operations that could almost is on par. It just happened to be that I didn't go through that. And again, that's why I wouldn't take it away from people that went through it.
No, not at all.
No, so and I could see why it was a really big eye opener, where I was sort of blasé to it prior. Military, we saw some bad stuff. We were sort of accepting of it, but when I went on to care flight, it was just on another level, and it started to affect me, I think, and it really did affect a lot of other people within the organisation, and also people that had been there prior to me. I met an AMBO that had left due to PTSD, specifically from his years at care flight, not on the road as an AMBO or anywhere else, but from when he was actually at hurt to the Rapid Response Trauma Team there in Sydney, that he just couldn't go back to work. So it's to answer your question, it's affected me in a way. Have I got PTSD? I don't think so. I don't know, but a lot of people have seen changes in the way I act and who I am as a person. So there's something there, and there's plenty of times where I do think about different things and different scenes. I don't have nightmares, I don't think, but I do think about something will flag it, and I'll think about it. See something on TV, and I'm pretty sure you're the same, and most of your viewers are the same. That whether in the armed forces or whether they were, or whether they were in the military, within the emergency services, if you go through something traumatic in your life, there's little things that can flag it up and bring it back up again. So that was that's something I never really was accustomed to before.
Yeah, and then because you're a massive public supporter of the Soldier On Foundation and fundraising for them. Well, that's how you and me came into contact. Yeah, there you go, Frontline Safari. I was chatting to a guy yesterday on my podcast, Andrew Houlihan, who was like, well, if all the international shit gets canned, I'm going to try and come and do the Soldier On the Frontline Safari at the end of the year. He's a Dakar rider.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's really, really lovely dude. So where did you sort of first initially start with Soldier On?
So there was a point where I got, it was more of my anger that I think I was getting really, I could see that there was some sort of issue with me and with work and what I'd been going through, that I was getting angry over the most superfluous stuff, and I could see, look, people are looking at me going, what's wrong with this guy? It's just, it's nothing. So I didn't want to, and we didn't have much in care flight. New South Wales Ambulance had a lot of good stuff to provide in regards to, helping you out with your any mental issues or problems that you have, various different things. But Soldier On was they just pretty much started. They pretty much founded 6 months before I called them. And I just had a chat to them and asked them what they did. And I sort of sounded like when I phoned them, I was more like shopping, seeing what they could provide and who they are. I was a bit, I think like most people, especially nowadays, I was a bit conscientious and a bit also concerned about charities and who and what they do and what they are. And I was also working for a charity, so it was a bit funny in that regard with my mentality towards them, towards charitable organisations. But anyway, I called them up, and they were amazing straight off the bat. And they can provide back then. They can provide a number of services, and so I didn't initially use them. But what occurred was that, like you, I have a lot of friends that were in the emergency services and also the military, and ex-military, and they were struggling far worse than even close to what I was at. So I put one or two guys onto Soldier On initially, saying, hey, give these guys a call, they can help you out. With something maybe that you can't get with the Padre or with VVCS, or you know what I mean, the ambulance Padre. And it's funny. It's not funny, but it just goes to show what sort of organisation they were. Was that one of the guys I put onto them had never been in the military. He was New South Wales Ambo, and they didn't care. They just, you know what I mean. So they immediately were. That sort of stuck with me because he was a good friend of mine. And he was struggling at work mentally, especially after a specific job that we did, which involved children. Soldier On were really good for both of us, specifically him. He was really, really heavy. And then one of my close friends who ended up dying, took his own life. He was really struggling with PTSD, finding work. He was a member of an outlaw motorcycle gang, so he was in the process of sort of transitioning away from being a member of them. And he was lost. So, and Soldier On did a lot for him, providing some counselling services, and then also started helping him look for work. Even helping him out with some basic things like, writing his resume. He'd never completed a resume, ever.
Yeah.
He joined the army when he was 18, so he'd never had to really. So, and you could tell with his demeanour, he was really looking up and being positive. It was just that a few other circumstances come into play where he ended up, going over the edge a bit there. But so from that day on, I thought, whatever I do moving forward, I'm going to, every month I'm going to give Soldier On, or once a year, give Soldier On a big donation, and then with my interest in riding off-road motorcycles and that, and doing adventure rides and adventure riding, I thought, why don't I sort of bring the two together and we can sort of raise some money for them. That's the past, and that's how I got affiliated with Soldier On, become a fundraiser for them.
And then the Frontline Safari started, which was early October last year?
Yeah,
Right?
We went September. That's all sort of started December, January that year. December the previous year, January that year. The thought process and the idea, and then I had one or two friends, Matt Porpry, Ports, as you know, come on board because he was working in EMS in Victoria. He's ex-Black Hawk crew, and he was really interested in helping out and helping Soldier On. And he was getting a bit bored with life, so he thought he'd make it more interesting.
Yeah, it made it interesting for him the first day.
Yeah, that's right. So he came on board, and we just spent the whole year pretty much planning this thing out and getting sponsors together and working with Soldier On to get it underway. Yeah,
fucking adventure, mate. It was. Fuck. Some of the laughs I had, especially because I was in the vehicle with the fella from Traverse magazine. Can't remember his name, but shit, I don't think I've laughed that much since some of the shit that happened. It was awesome.
No, it was good. You know, he came as a magazine editor / photographer to cover the story and just sit in a vehicle.
Yeah.
And he ended up providing his own vehicle and driving the whole time with you.
Yeah,
So
fucking legend.
just how crazy it was.
Poor bloke having to fucking go with me. And that's back on this year, isn't it?
No, so we haven't made it publicly, but we will, and you're happy for you to share it. That just because of COVID-19 and everyone's financial position, we just can't run it this year. I'm lucky in what I do in my businesses where I'm quite well off and financially stable, so I can afford to do it. But you know, dealing with we had 5 riders from last year that have joined and put their money down straight away to do it again this year. That's how much they loved it. Yeah. So which was good. Awesome. So we're refunding them or offering them the option to donate their deposit to Soldier On. And speaking to a couple of them, they were just like, it's a good idea to cancel it. And being that, people have, thousands and thousands of Australians have lost their jobs and are financially strapped at the moment, it just makes total sense that no one's going to be able to afford a couple of grand to coming up and, nearly 10 days off work to come out to the Simpson Desert and ride across it.
Yeah, fucking oath. No, that's very true, man. I didn't even think of that. That flow-on effect of, doing some of that shit. No one's going to be able to afford 2 weeks off work at the end of these.
No, and one of the guys, like, it was humbling. He said, look, I could probably, I could spend that couple of grand, but he goes, my wife will just look at me and go, why are you doing that at this time of, well, we could, lose the business tomorrow. We should be saving our money. So I said, I totally understand. And, while Soldier On, like most charities, are really hurting at the moment, especially after COVID-19, and, telling them was quite hard, and they're quite, upset and they understand. And, but yeah, we'll just look at the following year to do something, and kick it back off bigger and better, and hopefully raise even more money for them.
Yeah, man, fucking oath. No, I'm all about that, and I'll be definitely involved where I can be as well.
Cool.
It's it's great. Awesome, man. Well, unless there's anything else, I think we might. It's an hour 10-ish. We might finish up there.
Yeah, no, cool. That's it, man. I appreciate you having me on, and thank you for coming across the desert and providing your time. And I don't think many of the viewers or your followers know what you did and what you provided. Like we dragged you across the desert, we kept you up all night, we got you drunk a few times and told some worries. But I think what I take away from being friends with you and what you give as a public speaker is that you make people think outside of their own box, their little box, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
In regards to life and the way that they're living their life. Like some of the plans we've got next year and the year after with the bikes and adventure riding across the world is just pretty much because of you. Like we've just gone, we only live once, let's go do it. So it was really good to have you on board, and a lot of the guys, if the viewers didn't know that you gave a lot of you spoke nearly every night, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, most nights.
You had a little powwow and told some worries with the guys, and you brought up a lot of things with some of the paid riders that on the mental health side, and it's made them think, and they've gone away completely different people, and a lot of them, all the guys that signed up straight away this year was like, is Willy coming back?
Said, Just they want to see me get naked in the fucking pub again, running around in the
we're going to drag him back with his mankini and his Viking hat.
Breakfast.
So look, that's what I wanted to say publicly. Is thanks again for being a good friend and also a good supporter of what I do and everyone else does, whether it's with Soldier On or with your foundation.
Charity work. Honestly, it's my pleasure.
It's that's something that I took away from not only being friends with you, but the effects of what's occurred with me with the work that I've done is I've made myself put a lot more energy into helping people out, and you know, my time, for example, fundraising for Soldier On and what I want to do. So that's helped immensely, and it's, you know, because of guys like you, I've sort of headed down that direction. So yeah, thanks again.
Oh, mate.
And thanks for the invite to come on.
No, mate. Fuck. If anything, you're fucking helping me out more than anyone. I need people on the show, and you know, I couldn't think of anyone. Like, I spoke to this about, well, fuck. It would have been 6 months easily ago, 6 or 7 months ago, about coming on. But you know, no one could foresee what was going to happen this year. We're hoping to do it in person.
Yeah,
I'm sure that'll happen in the future.
No, it's good. Like, and some of the people that you've had on your show was just blown away when I got the invite. I thought, what's he want me on? You know.
No, that's all right.
But, you know, it's good. I've got a, you know, we've done a lot in the last couple of years, and we've got a lot more coming. So stay tuned.
Good, man. Right, man. Well, thanks for that, bro. I'll speak to you soon anyway, offline.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, Willie.
See you, brother.